All right.
But
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Today on Mind the Autism podcast, we are going to be having a conversation between two counselors, specifically neurodiverse counselors. And I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Rogers. She is dynamic. She is an exceptionally dynamic counselor in that prior to being a counselor, she was also in construction. And as a hobby, she converts vans so that people can live off grid and experience freedom in that way. And so let's get started. Jack, thank you for being here. It's a real honor for us to have this conversation.
likewise.
Well, why don't we just get started? So we're just two counselors here having coffee. Well, I have my beverage here, and we're neurodiverse, and there's some tropes, there's some stereotypes around that, which we'll get into a bit later. When did you notice you were different from your peers?
I feel like it was like really young. It was like in primary school. I don't know. It was always like something that I felt was really chill in my household. Like mum and dad kind of picked up on it early, and like they got me in tutoring in primary school and stuff like that because I wasn't focusing in class as much as everyone else. But it was never really anything I thought about until I think my adulthood, mainly, because it was just like mum was kind of just like, oh well, Jack's off with the fairies, like, and it was never like a negative thing. So I feel like I got quite lucky. Like I didn't really go through a lot of struggles when I first got diagnosed and stuff like that. Like mum was at my appointment and she just laughed and kind of was like, oh, everyone in there related to that, right? And my dad's like, what? No. and mum's
Right.
like, oh, okay. And so it was like something that's always been really lighthearted.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think I really noticed how much of a difference I had from my peers where it was affecting me until adulthood. And it was like with like having a career and jobs and having to have like my life feels stable, and mine didn't feel stable, and everyone around me was looking stable, and that's when I was just kind of come a little bit undone and went and got professionally diagnosed at the age of, I think I was like 30, but yeah.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were some of the strategies you used to close the gap of that difference what were some of the things that you did maybe prior to diagnosis because you weren't quite sure what was happening?
I don't know. What do you mean by closing the gap with it? Like, how did I kind of get myself to like fit in, or
yeah? Did you have some
yeah.
strategies for masking? I know for myself, I always knew that I was different, and I didn't have a diagnosis until much later in life. And so prior to that, I was doing a lot of personal development. I was learning about human behavior just so that I could try to mimic those behaviors and that were considered normative. And no matter how much I tried to mimic behaviors, people were still able to notice that I was different in the way that I communicated, different in the way that I related to them, and especially with longer term interactions that I had with human beings.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. The thing that I think comes up for me is I always felt a little bit out of place with anything that was where I had to be intelligent in a way that's like book smart. So I found my strengths. I think like I realized that I was good at physical things quite young. So like sports or physical type work, which is what got me into like chasing construction. I was like, oh, well, I'm good. I felt like I was good at that. So yeah, kind of just not being hard on myself really about like where I couldn't quite feel like I fit in. So I just find the places where I did.
Right.
But
Okay, so I'm hearing that
yeah,
you felt that you weren't necessarily gifted academically, and you loved being
yeah,
physical, and so it was quite natural for you to go into construction.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, for sure.
okay.
Yeah,
Uh, I suppose that would have been interesting as a woman, since there's this stigma or idea that construction is primarily male.
yes, yeah, yeah. It was like I went back into something else where I was like, oh wait, I don't fit in here either. No, but yeah, it comes with a whole other heap of struggles of its own.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. We can imagine. And
yeah.
what was the catalyst for you becoming a counselor?
It was actually that I was working in construction, and just like really really loved my job, but just didn't fit in with the people. And I was just like, I just want to be surrounded by people that are like, just, I don't know, just my people. And I was like, I just felt like I was going to get that from the counseling course. And then I wasn't 100% sure going in if I was going to be a counselor or not. And I just thought it just feels like the right fit. And also, I think being in jobs where I felt like it was always just, for construction, it was about me, what I was getting out of it, and then, get a house, have all these things. And like, it just never felt like fulfilling work. Like, I've always just felt like I feel like I last in a job like a year or something like that, and then I'm over it. And I feel like to sustain feeling passionate about my work, I need to feel like I'm helping other people as well, and like it's like got some kind of purpose. And if I don't, it just never feels fulfilling, and I always just end up unsatisfied and like get irritable and just want to leave my job.
Mm,
So I just feel like going into the counselling course, it's just going to take me in another direction with that, where I can feel like I can balance a bit of both, do something for me with construction, but also feel like I'm working towards helping others as well.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm hearing that contribution is important to you, as well as connection. You need both of those things for
Yeah.
fulfillment, and and
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
and counseling seems to be making that available to you in the way that other roles you may have been involved with weren't delivering on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like there'll be so many avenues that I can help. Like, it's just there's so many different jobs that I can go with, and it's just I don't know, it just seems way more me.
Mm.
Yeah.
What have
Yeah, for sure.
what have been some of the unexpected benefits that you've experienced since becoming a counselor?
Ooh, I definitely feel like since learning that I'm not like I can get detached from my ego, and it's like I don't have to be this like savior that's going to help someone. Um, Seeing that it's all about empowering someone else to find that their way themselves. And because I've always felt like intimidated by getting into counseling, because I thought, oh, I don't have all the answers for myself, let alone for someone else, and kind of just going, oh, I don't need to.
Mm.
It's like everyone's able to do it themselves, and just being like a support in that. I feel like it not only has like helped me with my own personal life, but also for like going into that job too. I'm like, okay, it just seems way more I don't know, it just seems way more special doing it. That you just like, I don't know, it just like made me think about things in a completely different way. Yeah.
So it sounds, what I'm really picking up is that your listening skills have improved, and the
Yeah.
connections that you have are different than they were before you were a
Yeah.
counselor. Is that
Yeah.
in the ballpark?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I feel like I've always been quite a good listener, but it's teaching me the skills of how to be like an even better listener, because I feel like before I was always listening to respond to try and help. Whereas now it's like I like the idea of asking open questions so that somebody can come to it themselves. It's just a way nicer way of communicating, and I'm really enjoying learning new skills that I would never have even thought of. Well, maybe I would have, but nowhere near as fast from studying. So.
Right. And what are some of those new skills that you've encountered or unwrapped?
Yeah, just seeing where a conversation can go if I just shut up and just sort of listen and like, yeah, watching somebody just kind of relax and just end up talking on their own little trail, and how much more connected that can make them feel to you. And then it's made me realize where I've noticed that in my own life, where if people are jumping to give me advice, I feel disconnected. Whereas if someone actually listens to me and just allows me to be where I'm at, even if they don't agree with it and they want to, tell me where the end story should be, they're like, oh, you should be doing this, and they don't do that, and they just allow me to just, be where I'm at, that how much more connected you feel. So yeah, I've definitely liked learning about that.
And you've both of us have had therapy and counseling and that type of thing, sitting on the other side of the chair, and now that you're a counselor, you in retrospect you can probably look back and notice the difference between effective counseling and counseling that's not as effective. What do you think could be the top 3 things for someone to look for if they're searching for a counselor that's going to meet their needs, especially if they're neurodivergent?
Yeah, okay. I feel like I definitely noticed, especially since being in the counseling course and learning about things, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I didn't go back and see that counselor. and then why I really love my counselor now is that having someone not giving you advice. Like I would give advice to people to just like listen to your body when you're interacting with the person that you're trialing as your counselor, and just sort of see if things that they're saying sit right with you. And because I had one counselor that kind of like tried to problem solve, and then they were like, oh, I can't remember what it was, but like, oh, maybe you're doing it because of this, and it just didn't like fit with me. I was like, nah, that's not it. And it kind of, just built a disconnect, and I was just like, nah. So I suppose just, looking out for a counsellor that's, good at listening, isn't trying to problem solve.
Right.
Listen to your body.
Right.
My body's my best, like, guidance. I'm like, okay, like, if I don't know cognitively what's going on, like, my body will tell me anyway.
Right.
If anyone else has that same makeup for them. But yeah, I think that's all I can think of.
Okay. Well, that's significant in itself. When you're considering working with counselors that may have had experience in working with people who are neurodivergent or have not had experience in working with neurodivergent people, have you noticed a difference in the type of counselors or therapists that you've worked with in the past?
Well, yeah, because the one I've been seeing my counsellor now for the past year, and prior to her, I hadn't actually specifically searched for anyone that specialises in ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got on, and now that I suppose I'm a bit older too, and I've had a couple of experiences that haven't gone well, I'm like, okay, I want to be a bit more picky this time. And I got on her profile and just said, went down the bottom. I was like, okay, what does she specialise in? And yeah, she had ADHD there, neurodiverse, and like LGBT, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, tick, I'll give her a go. And yeah, it's ended up working out well. So I don't know, I think too, when finding a counsellor, you got to treat it like dating. It's like the first one you find might not be the one, but don't give up and keep finding one until you do.
Right.
And then if it's not working, don't stick with them. And if you find a good one, then yeah.
Right. It also sounds to me that you are talking about cultural competence. That's the thing that I'm hearing specifically in the way that you've been making suggestions on how to search for a counselor that's going to work for you. So you suggested make sure that there's a client that look for a counselor where there's alignment and you're going to feel that intuitively. look for a counselor that has exceptional listening skills, and look for a counselor that has cultural competence and the ability to not necessarily come up with answers, but be able to support you to identify or elicit your own truth. Would that be fair to distill it in that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sums it up well.
What is next for you? Are you when you look at counseling, are you looking at private practice? Will you be working at an agency?
Yeah, I think probably an agency. I feel like I've got a lot of self-doubt, and but also at the same time I think some training would be good, like doing the diploma for a year. I think coming straight out of that and opening my own practice, I personally wouldn't feel confident enough to do it, I don't think, but who knows, we've still got a while left to go in the course. Maybe at the end I will, but I think working for an agency, but I'd really love to work in one that's specifically looking after LGBTQIA plus youth, because I feel like that's where I would be best suited. But yeah, so I think what's next for me is just enjoying the course, getting to know myself, getting to learn new skills, and then move into a practice like that.
Now,
what about
you? Well, I'm going to answer that in just a moment. You brought up something, the last thing that you mentioned about LGB. I can't get all of the letters.
No, that's all right. It's a mouthful.
What is your specific interest in working with that particular niche? Do you you have a passion in that area? Say more about that.
Yeah, I think probably just for the whole spectrum. I'd even myself being part of it, I'd still need to educate myself on a lot of the community that I don't that I don't identify with, that I'm not educated in. But I think for me, the gender diverse community and trans community is something that I would like to get into, because that's my own experience. But I'm still growing within that myself too. So it's just like, well, I suppose we're forever growing, but that's my inner self-doubt again going, oh, I'm not there yet. But working within that community for sure.
Something I really love about some of the things that you're saying is that you're so genuine. And a lot of times we go and speak with a professional, and they have this air about them, almost as if they have all the answers. And the truth is that no one has all the answers. So I'm finding myself, I feel quite comfortable. I feel at ease and peaceful when we're interacting, because I know that there's no pretense. You're not contrived. You're just really present and listening, and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but as far as your question about what I'm planning on doing, you and I, we've had this discussion previously. My background is in coaching and in health, and I'll be opening a new support agency for people who are NDIS participants. And for people who don't know what NDIS is, it's called the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it's designed to support people with lifelong disabilities. It's physical, psychosocial, things of that nature. And because I have a lived experience as a participant, as well as several other co-occurring conditions, I feel that I can make a difference in a specific niche that's not being met. So that's what I'm doing with it. That's my path. So I don't know, maybe we could do something together.
Yeah. Yeah.
What What do you feel when you're looking back? If you were to give a message to your younger self, knowing what you know now, what would your message be to your younger self? And keeping in mind, some of the people in our audience, maybe they're where you have been, or maybe they're almost there, and so your insight is going to be really valuable.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd say to my younger self, and like to other younger neurodiverse people, or even adult neurodiverse people as well, because there's so many late diagnosed, would just be to find ways to celebrate it, because I love my ADHD. I have gotten lucky where it's kind of, I've grown up in a household where it's been celebrated and kind of just seen as a funny thing. Like, even actually one of my bosses at one of my old jobs where I had a really good experience working for him, he was just like, he's just like, oh, Jack, if people are like bothered that we can't pay attention, just tell them that they need to be more interesting. I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic. It's just like, if I'm not paying attention, it's a somebody else's problem. And it's just like, I don't know, I personally don't see it as that bad, but I don't want to take away from other people that are struggling with it as well. But my coping mechanism is like being lighthearted about it and laughing about it. But then there's so many good things about it too, because I'll just like hyper focus on something that I find really interesting, and then I just bin all the boring stuff, and I don't really see that as a bad thing. So I think, yeah, finding the parts of your neurodiversity that you really love and celebrate it. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can absolutely feel that. Well, you're at the beginning-ish of part of your journey, and it would be really good for us to do a podcast later on when you've gone over the next milestone, whatever that is, and I would love to hear your insights about that transition. We've had conversations about that previously, so for the audience it may seem a bit cryptic, but I'd rather you bring that up than me just blah. So let's schedule a time for sometime in the near future where we can really dig in to the transition and what's been opening up for you. And I'm really, really looking forward to that conversation, that specific conversation as well. Does that work for you?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Excellent.
Yeah, that'd be
okay. That's all we have time for today. I want to thank you again, Jack, for your generosity in sharing your lightheartedness, and I'm so appreciative to have you in my sphere. I think as counselors, we are in a very unique position to make a difference in the world, especially in the neurodiverse community, where there is a lot of marginalization, misunderstanding, and stereotypes. And away we go. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. Have a great day. Bye.
You too.